Hi and welcome to Hairless in the Cloud, another episode of day 2. We are still in the hotel and have another great guest with us. It's Lavanya. Lavanya, very nice that you are here with us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oliver, could you talk a little bit about what Lavanya is doing at the moment? Can you ask about her role at the moment and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm very, very eager to hear more about all the AI stuff.
Sure.
Because you're really responsible for
Yep.
some part of it, especially in the Intune integration.
Yeah.
In regards of security Copilot stuff and Intune. We are happy to interview
Thank you.
and learn more about the skills
Sure.
and what we are able to do with it. So maybe you can introduce a little bit yourself.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much. This is an awesome crew for having me here in between the Ignite session, trying to sneak in time to do this fun recording for your podcast. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
A little quick introduction about myself. For folks who are joining online, looking at the video, I'm Lavanya. I'm a product manager with the Intune team. I've been with the team for over 2 years, and I've been with Microsoft for over 5 years. I come with a data and analytics engineering background, and I love working with numbers. Math is like my fun place. I take a lot of passion in looking at the data. What has kind of evolved as part of this journey that I have traveled as part of my professional career is bringing in the AI and ML behind the scenes to power up this data and do a strong storytelling for our customers. So that's where the journey that started off just as data and analytics kind of evolved with ML, and now with AI and generative AI, it is just getting better. And I think it's kind of one of those times in your career where you think you're doing something so different and you're part of a moment. I think this is that moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing I learned is that I pronounced your name wrongly. So sorry for that. Okay, so this sounds very interesting. So you have recognized that you have all this data now in the cloud, right? You have all this telemetry, and you are just beginning, or the journey started very early, I guess. You have just thought about what can we do with it? What can we do productively with it? How can we use it? That's the thing you are doing, right?
Totally. Yeah. So all the time, as you have data, there is one aspect, and I was talking to Oliver as we were walking here for this recording, is folks are like, oh, you have so much of data, you can do so much more. Why aren't you doing all of this fun stuff? There is an important aspect behind the scenes that we strongly believe in, which is ensuring that the data is used in a compliant way, and we are honoring all the privacy guidelines behind the scenes. And anytime you have an AI involved, we want to do responsible AI. What we want to absolutely avoid for our customers is guiding in a wrong direction and the model kind of picking on those incorrect signals and continuing to build on it, right? So that's where there is a lot of rigor and a process that's in place that we need to apply even before saying, oh, this is an ML powered data insight, or this is an AI powered data insight, right? So providing those nuances and also ensuring as you're looking at the data, you are honoring and respecting the tenant and the compliance boundary is so important. So anytime there is a cross-tenant analytics that gets invoked, you want to ensure that you have an explicit customer content that has got the right consent behind using that data.
So I think this is what Satya meant with enterprise-grade AI, I guess, right?
Right.
So that's this property of saying, we are not only able to produce results, but producing those results that are allowed to be produced in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure in some of these sessions you would have also caught up on the data governance aspect of it and how Purview is used in context of the data aspect. We talk about Intra, where we look at the individual identity associated with the data. So all of this is so much critical. And of course, we will talk more about the fun stuff regarding the endpoint management itself.
So before we dive into that more deeply and in the use cases of that, honestly, I have a question. So how often do you experience a situation where you say, okay, now we got some results out of this AI stuff, we got some new ideas because of that, and we then recognize we don't have the right data. We would need some more telemetry for it, you know? Is that something that is happening?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I almost have goosebumps thinking about it, because last year there was one of those features that we were private previewing with our customers. We were so close to taking it to the finish line. And as we were private previewing it with our customers, what we realized is the telemetry that we were getting from the device itself was not high quality, especially when you re-image a device, all the information associated with the hardware configuration is kind of wiped out, right?
Okay.
So it almost treats it like a brand new device, which made it so difficult as we were looking at some of the capabilities associated with the hardware of the device. We had to go back to the drawing board. We sent a broader communication with the customers with whom we were doing private preview, and we said, all of your feedback is so pivotal for us to put a pause, go back to the drawing board, and figure out better ways to do this. And we are still continuing to work on it. And hopefully, sometime early next year, the product and the product feature that we were working on, which we paused, will be available to our customers to use it as part of our general availability. So there are those moments where you do make those hard decisions, but I think in the short term it does hurt the features and the capabilities customer are eagerly looking for, but in the long term, that's like the right thing for us to do.
Yeah, perfect. So we only touched now several keywords, but maybe you can talk about more comprehensively. What are you working on at the moment? So what's your topic?
So I'm going to kind of break this into two parts, right? Anytime you think about data and analytics in context of AI, there is an analytical AI aspect of it, and then there is the new buzzword, the generative AI aspect of it. Now, how should we think about both of these in context of the data that we are working on? Generative AI, I tell people, it's not like a magic is happening behind the scenes. It's not like something fancy will be available. It still needs the data. It still needs all of those core information to be able to provide meaningful, insightful insights. What would have taken potentially a longer time for us to build the models and power it up might happen faster with generative AI, right? Which is where you bring the power of assimilating all the information that's available from various data source, and then you are doing the crunching behind the scenes with the power of the GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 or GPT-3, whatever you're using as a model, and ensuring that it's going through all the right data and compliance boundary. And we have some responsible AI building blocks, which is powered by some strong principles behind the scenes. All of those is leveraged as we look at every natural language question that a user asks, which is what we call as prompt. And then once a prompt is provided to the behind the scenes engine, it goes ahead, looks at all the skills, creates a plan, and then it executes it. There comes a context in perspective of the product that you're using or the experience that you are trying to leverage generative AI for. All of this context is put in perspective by the model, and then it is formatted before it's presented back. What you see is a prompt and a response, but behind the scenes there is a lot more things that happens in terms of the skills that is getting invoked or the plan that is getting created and the output of the execution and then formatting. All of those good stuff happen behind the scenes, right? What typically, let's say a troubleshooting scenario, you have a user, Oliver comes and he's like, he's coming to me as a help desk representative, and then he says, I have this device. I'm not able to see the Windows search button showing up in the start menu. I don't know what's going on. Like, it's so fundamental. But then if you typically had to look at, you go into a devices blade, you're trying to figure out, oh, where is Oliver's machine? And then you go to policies to figure out what are the policies that's deployed on Oliver's machine. And then you go back and you figure out, oh, but I don't know about this policy. I need to do more research to figure out what this policy is. So you use internal search and KB articles to figure out more about that policy. And then you're like, potentially this could be the reason. And then you are trying out to see, oh, what if I disable this policy against the user's assignment? So if you think about this, this is like a tedious multiple step that you need to really leverage to be able to troubleshoot a device. But then you go back to a Copilot, you are asking, tell me about Oliver's device. There is a response that's available right there. And based on that, you continue the conversation, right? It's not like you asked one question and all the answers are readily available. It's like building a dialogue, building a conversation, and leveraging the context from the previous prompt to build on the scenario that you are using generative AI for. What is so interesting in this entire conversation is, if I am a user, it is not like I am just sitting here and something is happening on the device, right? It's not all of that. I am just leveraging the Copilot to do all the work. I'm still the pilot. As a help desk personnel, I'm still the pilot. Copilot is helping me in this journey to make it faster and insightful. So your time to remediate or your time to mitigate a situation is so much more scaled up, and it happens at a lightning speed. That's kind of like the power of generative AI.
Perfect. Sounds very interesting. What a really, what I mentioned, we did a few podcasts and AI came up, this responsible AI thing, that it is really, with everyone we are talking from Microsoft, they're very well aware that it is so important that it is a fundamental with everything you do. I really like that.
Yeah, it's almost like a preliminary check even before we get into the design and the implementation, right? As we think about the requirements, we go through this privacy compliance. Okay, from where is data being leveraged? For what purpose is it being used? What is the use case? How are we getting the customer consent? Do we have all the right T's and C's in place, the terms and conditions in place, right? So we are going through all of these nuances, which when you think about it externally, it feels like a process overhead, but I think these are all the mandate steps to do. And that's when we have a end outcome that is shipped to our customers, they have trust in what we are shipping, right? Because that's foundational and that's completely non-negotiable for us as Microsoft employees. We really have to ensure that we are standing behind all of these important building blocks.
But now, in terms of the product, you're working with Intune. Then you're
Yes.
building a Copilot for Intune, let's say.
Yep.
Yeah. And what would be typical scenarios Intune administrator would do then with Copilot in the future?
So troubleshooting was one of those classic examples, which is a core Intune scenario, because we've heard from our customers, they say, oh my God, troubleshooting is always time consuming, right? Like I said, just the scenario that I explained a few minutes back is you have to look up for things in multiple places, but think about your generative AI being able to find the needle in the haystack. That's kind of like the analogy that I use for some of these scenarios. Policy generation is one another scenario. If you have used Intune product and if you really look at even the baselines or settings catalog, there are a lot of settings that's available. Now, as you're thinking about creating a policy, you're picking a setting and then you're like, oh, I don't know what this setting is used for. That's when you are using something like a settings Copilot, settings helper that tells you this is what the settings is used for, right? So it becomes so much more useful as you are in the creation process. There is already a helper that's available sitting right next to you telling you what this is all about. So you don't need to necessarily find another expert in the room. Your expert is right there on the console that you can use runtime.
So what can go wrong when I do that?
Exactly. That's where your what if analysis, right? Exactly. I have this policy created. Okay, should I assign it to this group? What will be the end outcome of this assignment? Will it cause conflicts? Will there be issues when I try to do the assignments? All of those analysis, right as you're creating, before you execute, you will be able to see it, right? So the conflict resolution is such a powerful tool as you think about it in context of policy generation.
Okay, but
But
you mentioned, sorry, the part where you can create policies,
Mhm.
because I'm coming from the modern collaboration part of the site, and for example, I'm always looking, and you mentioned the troubleshooting part, but what I'm looking for is if I need to do a policy that is doing known folder configuration, stuff like this, so desktop is redirected to OneDrive. Does it help me find the right words? Because this is always where I'm struggling. You have so many settings in there, and it's always hard to find. So my imagination is I can tell the Copilot, create my policy that will apply the known folder redirection, even though it is called maybe something different at the moment in the product, in the setting itself. Is this something that the tool will do?
So that's where it's an evolution, is how
Okay.
I would say, right? I would not commit to saying that the first time 100% it's going to be right, which is where we continue to take feedback, right?
Okay.
The feedback of the prompts are also an important aspect that we continue to refine. So that means, let's say you provided a prompt and the response you got is just not related, it's just so much off target, right?
Okay.
You have an opportunity to go back and say, this is not what you were looking for.
Okay.
That feedback we listen in, we learn in, and we continue
Okay.
to refine the prompts, right? So that is an evolution process, because there are so many different ways in which we all communicate. The terms, the words that we use is so different. Coming from diverse background, prompt engineering is also something that gets better with time, right? So that's kind of how I would describe. If first time it has not gotten it right, then there is a process to provide feedback, and then you also have an option to rerun, right? You do the modification, and then you try and see, okay, now this time did it give me the right response? If yes, then that's a learning that we do behind the scenes. Okay, first time the user tried a prompt, it didn't work. The second time user tried a prompt, it worked. And that's the learning we try to continue to build on.
And how can, sorry, Oli.
No problem.
Yeah, go first.
I imagine the troubleshooting part is more or less kind of learning. You interact with the system, you get a question, and it will respond with, okay, here is your data, basically. Here is the profile name or what I'm asking for. But is it also possible in the end to interact like we see in the movies? So imagine a movie when someone is talking in a future scenario to a computer, and the computer is talking back to him, and then is also executing stuff. So, hey, give me a map from something else, and then now navigate something there. I could imagine to talk to Intune basically in the same way. So get into a dialogue and say, okay, this is a new tenant, maybe set up for me the auto enrollment part, and do it with a certain group or something. So in the beginning, typically I have to click a lot of things. I have to create policies. I have to upload an application. Is there also the action also involved in the dialogue, or is it more or less in the beginning the analytical part?
Or guidance, let's say.
Yeah.
Or even it could, I think where you're going with your question is more around, can I have some kind of an automated way of executing things, or some kind of an orchestration in place where the workflow that you just went through, you're able to capture it in some form or shape and rerun it at a later point in time.
That would be the advanced step, but in the first evolution of this system, I would just imagine something, okay, turn me on certain settings in the tenant. Is it able to execute all this? Or is it more or less an guidance, hey, you have to go there and do this? Or is there a kind of button in the end?
So, yeah, I think I know where you're going with this, and let me answer that. So, right away with the initial version of the capability within Intune, we will not be providing that capability, because we are still ensuring that all of the use case kind of works as expected, and we are able to capture in all the feedback. We are also thinking about those execution aspect of it, where you have controls to take a certain action, right? But that action, we will not take on your behalf. We will provide an capability that will help you take that action. That's why we call it as a co-pilot. We don't call it as a pilot, right? The reason is because you could be working for a pharmaceutical industry. He could be working for a healthcare industry, and he could be working for an automobile industry, right? the execution aspect of it in each of the industry could be
different.
very different,
Yeah.
and the implication of the execution could be catastrophic, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we want to avoid.
Wipe 1,000
Okay.
devices.
Exactly. And let's say in the healthcare industry, if you really think about it, it could be in midst of an actual surgery going on, right? So you do not want some kind of an update to happen on the device where, let's say, it involves some kind of a restart. That's the last thing you want when a surgery is in progress. So which is where I think the execution aspect of it 100% still needs to be in the control of the admins. But then the capability definitely is a extremely fair ask. We are thinking about it, we are experimenting with it, but we are still not there at a point where we are immediately making it available, because we also want to ensure that you have a certain set of steps that you're able to capture as, let's say, a prompt sequence, right? Which is a workflow, and then you want to be able to execute this workflow on a regular scheduled basis, right? All of those capabilities we want to provide, right? If I give you the start, if I give you a tire, and then I give you a steering, but then if I'm not giving you the engine, there is a problem. So we want to ensure that we are working through the building blocks. And yes, all of these is in the horizon.
Oh, nice.
Interesting. So, okay, and you are also working closely with security. So where's the connection there?
So how many of you here have caught up with yesterday's Satya's announcement, or this morning Charlie and Vasu's session, The Future of AI? Did you get a chance to catch up with that?
I think the keynote we all watched.
Okay.
Not today. No?
Yeah, I have seen the keynote today.
Today,
Yeah,
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a view that Vasu was sharing, which is about the flywheel and how the various product kind of comes together. Think about the flywheel or the center of the universe being the security Copilot, where we are bringing in the power from various products within Microsoft. As an example, for identity, we are bringing in Microsoft Entra. For all the endpoint and the management aspect of it, we are leveraging Intune. Data governance, privacy aspect of it, we have the whole Purview and the Purview suite of products. And then on the other side, we have the Defender, Sentinel, and what they announced today, the whole XDR product, right? All of this kind of comes together. So that means honoring all the RBACs that each of these products within Microsoft respects, bringing the data together and doing a summarization. As an example, let's say there is a threat that a system or a tenant or an organization has been attacked with. You're trying to investigate the threat and figure out what are the implications, what are the endpoints that has been identified, and you're going from the high level nuance of starting with the threat, figuring out at a tenant level what the spread looks like, going as basic as to set of endpoints and figuring out how do you remediate to ensure that this threat is not affecting critical devices within the organization or having any kind of a ripple effect on the newer enrollments that were done as part of this threat. Because we have seen scenarios where you will see new device enrollment happening as part of a threat and as part of a malicious activity happening on a tenant, right? All of those scenarios we want to eradicate, which is where the power of these various product kind of comes together, and we are leveraging some of the key capabilities, the identity in a related information, the management related information, then the data governance aspect of it. All of this kind of comes together, and then we are able to protect the tenant at a lightning speed, right? Because being able to defend is such an important aspect. And some of the statistics that were shared this morning around how the threats that the industry is seeing across the various geographies is just catapulting, right? And you want to really reduce that. And if you're trying to do this with just data that is available at hand, you really need powerful systems behind the scenes to be able to bring all of this data and runtime learn and evolve in this journey. That's where we are leveraging generative AI.
So from my understanding, this task was always there in the beginning when we had, I don't know, these 20 portals which are available for all the various products. But in the past, we need to check every portal.
Exactly.
We had to go to Entra, we had to go to Intune, we had to go to Defender and look up everything by ourselves and then find the big picture.
Correct.
Basically. And from my understanding, the security copilot should then tell me exactly this. Hey, tell me where's the latest threat. Here's the latest threat. Tell me which devices are involved. Here are the latest devices. Tell me if the user has maybe more devices than this in the Intune field enrolled and maybe the last logon. That's the conversation basically what an analyst will have.
Exactly. So
instead of going to the
let's say you're a SOC analyst and he's an IT admin and he's a security admin and I'm a help desk person. We are all coming together to a single place. We are asking all of those questions. The perspective and the angle of the question is different, right? You're asking it from a threat standpoint. He's asking about it from a device endpoint management standpoint. He's asking about it, how do I secure my entire tenant from this security breach, right? It doesn't matter whether it's a device, whether it's a virtual machine, it doesn't matter. You need to protect the device. I'm looking at how do I ensure that I'm able to mitigate and I'm able to pass on that feedback to the IT admin so that he can do the right kind of policy creation and do the assignments across a set of devices that has been going through this incident breach, right? That's where all of this kind of comes together, and you can look up this incident, be it on an standalone experience, or you can go into the in-product, right? Because these portals are available. Our customers are using these portals. We are not just taking it away, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so much more of a regression that we would be doing from how much we have progressed, right? So we want to have these capabilities within the product as well. That's why we have had some cool embedded experience announcements that happened between yesterday and today for Intune as well. Now, with an Intune, can I look up the data that's available from Defender or Entra? Those are some of the things where we already have the access to the data. We will be leveraging it. Where we need newer set of data, we will be working with our customer to get the consent and ensure there are right rollback access control in place before they can be used for summarizing some of these insightful insights.
So an example for this would be, I'm asking the Copilot in Intune, hey, what are the applications which are installed on the device, list me the top 10 applications, whatever. Then the new data connection to Defender could probably tell them something about the possible vulnerabilities.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
So we are basically in the private preview of the security copilot since a while already. And I know this plugin from Intune, so we can also get information from Intune. And when you are doing a free prompt, it will then pick out maybe also Intune. So in some situations, depending on the context I'm giving in this prompt, I understand this part, so quite good at the moment. So, but I think this is something different, as you were telling us at the beginning when you were like more the Intune admin, right? This is the Intune the Intune Copilot. So you are working on both at the moment. You are working on the plugin for Security Copilot, and you are working on the Copilot for Intune, right?
Yeah. So it's a different lens.
Yeah.
So what we call is what you're working on is the Security Copilot standalone portal, right? Where you're asking this free prompt, and then it looks up the data from all of these various products. And also, one of the things I forgot to mention is, wherever we have tie-ups with the third party, those information are also available. Like some of these publicly available API calls that we can make to ServiceNow, that information will be available. We're working with a couple of more other third-party vendors as well. So those information will be available. Now that's one of the experience that you are already having hands-on on. What we are talking about in context of an existing portal or the Intune Admin Center is an embedded in-product experience, right? Where, let's say you're thinking about your policy creation. Within your policy creation, you have an option to click on the sparkle of the Copilot, and then it brings up the whole side panel, and then you start asking your question. There, the beauty is there are some suggested prompts that's available, or you can ask your own question related to the context you're coming from, right? Just randomly asking, give me an itinerary about my travel to Greece. That's not the portal you want to be using, right? So which is where we always trying to navigate our customers the right way, to have the right kind of mindset to ensure that we are providing contextual information to the Copilot capabilities. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Absolutely. I think this is the beginning, yeah. And after, I don't know when, but at some point in time, there will be one portal, and you can ask this portal all the questions, and it will always know the context by itself. Yeah, I think this is at the moment the beginning, that you have this context always.
Totally. And also what we cannot shy away from is some of the visualization or the insights that has been so important to day in, day out activity. I think that's never going to go away. You're always going to need that, right? Like some kind of a visualization to say, oh, what does the statistics or what does the data insight looks like for my HR division? That view you will always need, right? So which is where your the power of Power BI, what it has been doing, or an equivalent product will always be needed, right? How you're thinking about your visualization layer, what kind of integration you're having, those are things that is going to evolve, and how you're going to use the product is the learning we will also need as we build some amazing stuff for you to continue to love our products.
But even there, if you get into the visualization, it can be a huge benefit to describe what visualizations do you want to have.
Oh, totally. Like it could be a table.
Yeah.
It could be an export capability, or it could be a bar chart, or it could be a graphical representation of a sort, right? It can be any of those options.
And that would be the major benefit of a generative AI, because I just tell them, hey, please give me that data in form of a table, in form of a pie chart or whatever.
Totally.
And I don't have to build it myself.
Yep.
Don't have to be a Power BI expert to get this data and represent it to my management.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the, it also ties into your earlier question around, oh, can I automated this flow, right? So you got this data, it's summarized, and then you want to visualize it. This entire workflow, can you automate it, right? So that's also an absolutely a capability that we are thinking behind the scenes. Like I said, it's a journey. We are working on those important building blocks. As we get along in this journey, the visualization and the automation.
Especially for the typical initial phases during a typical Intune product, then you roll out to the masses and you want to have things like, hey, report to the management the last 24 hours enrollment statistics and things like that. And you have to do this every day, because they want to see progress, and I have to report on that. And then maybe I will export it in a PowerPoint. Maybe in Copilot there can build me a nice PowerPoint. I think on every layer, when we're talking about this, you will see it.
Very interesting times. It's really, there's so much potential in this. So we are just at the beginning, I guess.
Oh yeah, totally.
So Lavanya, it was really great that you were here. We can go on with that for hours. It's really,
I know.
really interesting. And when we sit together, we have even more ideas. And I mean, during those 2 or 3 days, it's, even if we are using Security Copilot now since a while, it gets more and more clear where this is going. You know, it just comes to my mind where this is going and what will happen there in the future.
A huge potential.
Hands-on experience is crucial. We're talking about, from my side, M365 Copilot. We're eager to type our prompts into the product, and as we as a smaller partner, we are not having the capabilities yet, but we were looking forward to all of the videos. So as you mentioned, I think once you start with it, imagination is just the boundary.
Oh, totally. And in fact, I'm going to make a selfish pitch. As you're using it, as you have feedback, more ideas, bring it along the way, because we will not be able to build something that is jaw-dropping without your feedback, right? Because this is not like a new product capability that I have just thought about randomly. I put it in the product, stick it out there, and then we are telling, oh, use this new product, right? The whole idea of generative AI is, there is this product, how can I make this even more super cool, right? So that is where one of the things I tell all the customers that I have been meeting in the last few days is, I really want to meet the customer where they are. I want to simplify the complexity and help them focus on not something that the tool should be doing, but focus on really working on upskilling them and they should be driving more of the business value for their organization. You should not be working on, oh, I want to look at this data source 1, data source 2, how do I bring all of this data together? That's not what we want you to work on. Oh, there is all this data that's put together. This is the information that's available in front of me. How can I influence my senior leadership to make some important strategic decision that can drive our business forward? That's where we want to take our customers.
Yeah.
We will
Again,
do this.
thank you very much for being
Absolutely.
here. Also, Oliver, thank you very much for helping us out here. Yeah, it was really interesting, and we were looking forward to have you back in this podcast maybe at some time when there's more improvement to the product.
Totally.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we should do this in Germany.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So thanks again.
Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for having me, and loved talking to all of you, and really excited to listen into all the amazing feedback you're going to share with me on how the Copilot experience has been working for you. What can we do better? So thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And bye.